Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So today I've got a makeup tutorial for you. I haven't done special effects before on this channel, so I decided to do a special effects style makeup. I got some new things from Red Carpet FX, I think it's called. I'll link it all down below, but I'm going to be using some of these new things to do this Halloween makeup tutorial. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a nude pencil and I'm just going to sculpt out a heart shape around my eye. So I actually used the nude pencil because I want to just trace out where I'm going to put the blood and where I'm going to put the excess skin. So I decided I wanted to do a heart shape, but you don't have to do a heart shape. So I'm just tracing around with that nude pencil. Now I'm taking my nose and scar wax putty, and it's in a light colour, skin colour, which matches my skin tone well. So I'm just going to use the back of my brush just to get some of the product up, and then I'm going to roll it into a cylinder shape. And then before I apply it onto the line of the heart, I'm actually going to pop some spirit gum just on my face so that it sticks to my skin. Then I'm going to blend it out with my finger into my skin. It does get a bit sticky, and as you can see, it just sticks to my finger. A tip that I found out during this is if you actually use coconut oil or any sort of oil on your fingers beforehand, it is a lot easier to blend it into your skin. So make sure you are putting some coconut oil or some olive oil or whatever on your hands beforehand to blend it into your skin, and just keep using your fingers to blend it in and keeping one side quite prominent with the product and then the other side smoothly blended into the skin. So I just did that in sections, and I did it around in a heart shape to create this sort of heart skin flap that I'm trying to make. So I'm just making sure it's thoroughly blended into the skin because you can actually see it through the foundation really easily. So you want to make sure it's really nice and smooth, keep adding some oil to it and make sure that it's really natural looking. So then I took like this sort of sculpting tool that I actually have for brow lamination and lash lift, and I'm just taking that. You can use like a blunt knife if you want, just be really careful, and I'm just using the tool to kind of lift up the skin or the wax putty just to make it look a little bit more like it's hanging off my skin and it looks like it's been cut into a heart shape. So I'm making sure that the ends are all scraggly and a bit more cut instead of looking really neat. So you should have something that looks like this. And next I'm going to take my Meron paint palette. Next I'm actually mixing the yellow and the red together, and I actually ended up adding a little bit of purple as well to create like this muddy brown colour to make it look realistic, because blood isn't just bright red, it's lots of different colours of dark red with light red. You want to make it look as realistic as possible. So I'm taking that like dark brown colour and I'm going around the heart on the edges in the inside where my skin is. And now I'm taking the brighter red colour and I'm just going to put that on the lid, and I'm going to blend it into that brown to make sure it looks a little bit more natural. So the next thing to do is then add some black, and I'm actually going to add the black just on the inner corners of the skin flap, so it makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional. It makes it also look like it's standing out a bit more, and it gives that illusion again. So I'm just creating some depth around that heart to make sure that it looks deep. Then you want to blend it with a brush and make sure you've got water to blend it together with. So you can see it's starting to come together. So now I'm going to add some foundation. Be so careful adding foundation. I actually started lifting some of the wax putty off my eye, so be super careful. So I'm just using a brush and a matte foundation that's my usual shade. It's the Fit Me Maybelline foundation. I'm absolutely obsessed. I will link it down below, but it's a really good shade and it matches that putty perfectly. So yeah, just be really careful when applying your foundation. You just want to make sure that the skin looks even and blended into your real skin and the wax putty. So once you've applied the foundation, I'm now going to take a brown eyeshadow and I'm just going to take that on a really fluffy brush and just pat it around that heart. And what this does is create sort of like a bruising effect around the skin. It makes it look a little bit more irritated. So you can go as much as you want with this. I actually went quite a lot with it and I thought it made a really cool effect. So making sure that you're using patting motions, making sure it looks irritated around the eye. So next I'm taking my clotted blood. That sounds absolutely disgusting, but yes, you heard it right. clotted blood. This is like a thick scar blood, and it actually creates a lot more darker and clumped together blood, which is a lot more realistic. So I'm just adding a bit of water to that clotted blood, and I'm applying it with a brush and just in patting motions all over that area to make sure that it looks blended together. You can leave that lighter patch, but I ended up going over it because I liked how it kind of blended everything together and made it look a little bit more irritated and scar-like. So next I'm taking my stippling sponge, and this has loads and loads of holes in it, which is great for getting like a blood splatter look. So what I did is take some of that clotted blood, and because I don't have any normal blood, I just like made it a lot thinner with some water, and I just dabbed it over my skin. So next is the Chelsea smile, which is something that I've wanted to do for ages. So I'm so excited to do this and show you. The first thing you need is latex, liquid latex. Be careful, make sure you do a patch test beforehand. It's super potent, as you can smell it. It's like got ammonia in it, so be really careful. So I'm just applying it with a sponge and then applying a thin layer of tissue paper on top. And then I just keep adding latex over the top of the tissue paper, then building it up with tissue. And I just keep doing this until it's the desired depth, if that makes sense. So I'm just making sure it's like a thick layer of skin. So you just want like 4 or 5 sheets of tissue paper to create thickness, because we will be cutting it. You want actually quite a lot of that liquid latex to make it really stringy and flexible. If you don't put enough liquid latex on the tissue, it will tear. So once you're happy with the amount of thickness of the tissue paper, you just got to make sure that it's completely dry before you start putting anything else on it. So now I'm going to add my foundation, the same foundation I used on my skin, and I'm just using a sponge to pat it over because I don't want to irritate any of that tissue that I've just placed on my face. And yeah, it feels really uncomfortable when you're doing this part, but don't worry, we will be cutting it soon. So if you've got your mouth closed right now, don't worry. I was actually panicking a bit because it's weird. The next thing to do is set it down. So I've got this translucent setting powder. You can use just a makeup translucent setting powder. I have a Special Effects setting powder, so I'm just using that with a sponge, just making sure it's dried out nicely. Then I'm going to take the back of my brush and I'm just going to go in between where that tissue paper is and my skin, just creating like a sort of like a line, I guess, where I'm going to cut, and I'm just loosening it up so that I don't cut my skin. And I'm doing one side and then I go into doing the other side, but then I leave the brush there and start cutting. So when you go to cut, you want to make sure that you're leaving the brush in the tissue paper, because then you can cut on top of the brush so that it doesn't actually cut your skin. You want to make sure that you're doing this very slowly because it's a very delicate process. So once you're happy with the shape, you can then start cutting little sections out of the mouth, because you want to make it look like an open wound. So I actually ended up cutting little bits off just so that it just wasn't one line. I wanted it to be more open in that area. So don't go too heavy with this, but make sure that it's a little bit open so that you can actually see the wound. Now I'm just stretching the liquid latex and the tissue paper to make it look like flappy and like the skin is just overhanging, and I really like this gruesome effect. I think it's really cool. Mine started ripping because I didn't add enough latex. Make sure that you're using quite a lot of liquid latex, because if you don't use lots of liquid latex, the tissue paper won't become flexible and then you'll end up tearing it. Next, I'm adding a light red colour in the wound section of the mouth and just on the sides of the mouth, so I'm not actually taking it on the mouth itself because I want the effect to be like you've cut the cheeks. So next I'm taking a more darker brown colour, so this time I'm starting with a lighter colour and then developing it to a darker colour. So I'm taking a darker brown, so I've made it with purple, yellow and red to create this like muddy colour, and actually you do have a lot of purple and blue in your skin, so it makes it look a lot more realistic. So I'm just building that up in the cheek areas to make sure that it looks deep, and the darker you go, the deeper it will look. So now I'm taking my clotted blood and I'm just taking a little bit on my finger and just dabbing it around the areas where the flaps are to make it look a little bit more bruised and like blood is splattered everywhere. I actually really like the effect of when I use my finger rather than actually using the stippling sponge, just because I think the stippling sponge made it look a little bit more splattered. I wanted it to make it look cut, so a little bit more realistic and like clumps of blood in some places. So yeah, I'm just just adding it to the wound areas as well to make it look a little bit more scarred and a bit gross, to be honest. I'm just using the back of the brush to add some more of that clotted blood into those areas. And you can add it like anywhere around the face. I like to add it around where I put the tissue paper to kind of disguise where the join is between the tissue paper and the cheek. And I also actually ended up putting a little bit of like dripping blood on my face, and I love that effect. So if you've got some like true blood or anything, or stage blood, it's a good time to use that here and just actually make drips of blood come down from your face. I actually used paint because I didn't have any true blood or stage blood, which I can tell you right now is a lot better than just using paint, trust me. So I will link some down below that I recommend, but it's always sold out around this time of year. So now I'm just taking a little bit more blood on my eyes as well, because I want to kind of make it look like it's weeping in a way, which is absolutely gross. But yeah, I'm just adding loads of water to red paint and dark brown paint and dripping it from where those wounds are. Okay, so actually I decided I wanted to make the other eye look really glam. So you can go to my other videos if you want a full glam tutorial, but I'm just carving out my eyebrow with some concealer. Then I'm just adding a purple eyeshadow along the crease and making sure it looks really deep and dramatic and kind of winging it out slightly. Now I'm taking a bit of concealer and I'm cutting my crease, so it's sort of like a half cut crease in a way. I didn't want to go too full out. I just wanted to make it look a little bit more glam. And then I'm just blending the outer corner to make it look a lot more cohesive. Next I'm taking a setting powder and just setting down that concealer because else it'll crease up. Now I'm making a wing liner with my Melt Cosmetics gel liner in Immortal and my 24-hour felt tip liner, which is actually dried out now. I just use it as an applicator. So I'm actually adding a little bit of soap to the brows because I want my eyebrows to look really full and glamorous. And now I'm taking some powder and a angled brush and I'm just tapping that onto my brow, making sure I'm using the concealer line as like a trace of where to put the powder. Next I'm taking my Eco lashes. I actually have an Eco lash range which are false lashes that are made out of cotton, so I've just used that on my eyes. I'll link them down below if you're interested. And I'm also taking some concealer underneath my eye to brighten it up, and then I take some of that purple on my bottom lash line and then actually conceal my bottom lash line as well to make my eyes look a lot bigger. And then I take my mascara and just run it through my bottom lashes. Then I take my highlighter just to highlight the inner corner and my nose area, and I actually take it on a bigger brush as well to highlight my cheekbones. And then I decided to add a little bit of colour to that side of my face, so I added some bronzer and a tiny teeny little bit of blush. I'm just taking my hair out now to finish the look, and this is it done, complete. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to see your interpretations of this. That you could do so much with it. You could do 2 hearts on your eyes. You can do just that Chelsea smile if you want. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I'll link all the links down below and I will see you in the next one.